Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Frost Airsoft's Beginner Guide. This is going to be episode number 2 in the series, and this is going to go over indoor versus outdoor fields. It's actually my second time recording this because I wanted to make it a little bit shorter because I had a little bit windy last time. So I'm just going to go down my list right here that I've got, starting with indoor fields and what I think about them and what are the pros and cons. So pros and cons are, or the pros are, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a CQB field, which is a close quarters, which can either be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you like it. Me personally, CQB fields tend to have more respawns, more engagements, so more fun really, in my opinion. So I prefer the CQB fields, indoor or outdoors, fine with me, but you know, more on that later. So another thing you have to consider when it comes to indoor fields is they have different FPS limits. For example, this is a Scar H. This is the full polymer version, it's not anything fancy, but otherwise known as the UGG boot. You'll never unsee that now. Anyways, so this gun probably has a M120 spring in it or an M90 spring in it. So it should be just fine for an indoor field. I think this one's actually shooting right about 350 with .2s, so that's normally fine. Most indoor CQB fields have a 350 FPS limit just for safety reasons. Obviously, if you've got a 550 FPS sniper or something like that and you blast someone in close range, it's going to really hurt. So, you know, that's one of those things to keep in mind. If your gun doesn't have a quick change spring system like this one, you may have an issue there because you have to actually disassemble it to change the spring to meet the field limits. So just keep that in mind if you're looking into an airsoft gun and you only have CQB fields. Just keep that in mind. Maybe look for a weapon with an airsoft gun with a quick change spring system, so you can just kind of pull the spring out, put the spring back in, boom, good to go. So another thing is it's very dark in CQB fields, or excuse me, in indoor fields. It's very dark in there. There are a lot of strobing lights, so if you're vulnerable to seizures, you probably want to stay away from indoor fields. All the indoor fields I've played at, which I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm going to have footage either here or here while I'm talking of indoor and outdoor fields. The outdoor fields will be my footage, the indoor fields will be someone that I know from Elite Ops, and it'll be here in the corner. So it's very dark in there. That's another thing to keep in mind. People use flashlights, which is fine, but the problem is a lot of them use strobe lights, and people that are prone to seizures can have a seizure because of that, so I probably would steer clear of that. And also, it's kind of hard to see in there if you're one of the people not using a flashlight. I've actually heard a teammate complain about friendly fire because of it being too dark, so just keep those things in mind. Moving right along, Speedsofters make their home at indoor CQB fields. There is nothing wrong with Speedsofters. I don't have a problem with them at all, but as a newer player just getting into the game, if you're not aware of Speedsofters, they are basically rushers like in Call of Duty. As soon as they say 3, 2, 1, go, they take off. And they take off, and their goal is to wipe the whole team before they even get a chance to push up. Any Speedsofters can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm sure there's a better explanation, but that's what I got. So if you're not aware of that and you're a newer player, you're going to slowly make your way out of respawn. Well, they may have pushed you back and you just trapped in respawn, and that can happen. That can happen even if you're not playing against Speedsofters, but it's definitely one of those things that happens more with against Speedsoft players. Now, if you are interested in Speedsoft or that's how you want to play, those are the places to go, and there's a lot you can learn from those guys. Most of them are really chill guys and girls. So another thing you have to consider is what kind of weapon you want to use. If you want to be a Nogrich or a Silo or a Kickin' Mustang, then an indoor field is probably not for you. Because, for example, this one, like I said earlier, has like an M120 or M150 spring in it. So it probably shoots, honestly, this one probably shoots pretty hot for an indoor field. It probably shoots about right around 450 to 500 FPS, which is what you want for a sniper. But as far as an indoor field goes, those are illegal. You would have to change it because you could possibly hurt someone. And then on top of that, this is a very bulky weapon. Snipers are not meant to be, small weapons at all. So trying to maneuver this in a close quarters environment is very difficult. That's why most snipers carry a secondary for those exact reasons when they have to enter buildings to get a better position. But like I said, and LMGs is another thing that goes along with that, is LMGs 9 times out of 10 are full auto or burst. And most indoor CQB fields are semi-only to keep from people getting mag dumped and stuff like that can really hurt them. So that's another thing you have to consider. Is now most places will make exceptions for LMGs if that's all you have. They'll be like just fire and burst, which is understandable. So just keep that in mind. The good news is that in most indoor fields, it's respawn games. They don't hardly ever play anything like a medic game in an indoors field just because it wouldn't make much sense to do that. So that's one of those things you gotta keep in mind. That's one of those things I think is really good about those is because you can die, go back to respawn, and you're back in action. And since it's such a small area, you don't have to walk that far. You can actually sprint back to respawn and hop right back into action, and you're not missing a lot. So that's one of those things that's really good about indoor fields. And then also, if you are a Speedsofter, like I said, it's going to be a great place for you. Or if you're an SMG or a shotgun user. I do have an SMG. Hang on. This is not a very fancy SMG. This is actually just a regular cheap sport line MP7. But if you were using something like this is very compact, very maneuverable, especially in CQB. These things are amazing. This one's not all that great. This was actually just given to me by a friend. It's just a little cheap one, but still pretty cool. And another thing is shotguns are very useful in CQB too. A lot of people like to run around with that tri-pump shotgun, and those will get you. And it's a lot of fun to do that, and I think that's why people do that. High Kappa users also, with just a high Kappa by themselves, just running around eliminate team, people tend to like that as well. So I think that's some things to consider when you're looking at an indoor field. Okay, so moving on to outdoor fields, there are a few different things you got to consider when you come up to outdoor fields. So outdoor fields, there's two different kinds. There is a CQB version of outdoor fields, and there is a large-scale outdoor field. CQB versions is more geared towards beginners and people that want a lot more action and are not playing as tactical or as completely realistic as you would like. Generally, large-scale fields are more set for people that would want to play realism, as in have a squad of one guy with an M4, one guy with a shotgun, one guy with a sniper and a DMR and stuff like that. So you can move on the objective and move 100% together and move like a real squad would in real life, as close as you could get to it if you wasn't properly trained. So that's why I think some people choose the large-scale fields, is because they want that realism effect. Me personally, I think CQB fields are much better for beginners because there's more action. The same thing that goes for the indoor CQB fields is the same thing for the outdoor CQB fields. The more action you get into, the more BBs you're going to sling, the more fun you're going to have. That's just simple. Of course, that's how it's going to work. There is another thing that comes into effect with outdoor fields is medic versus respawn fields. Or respawn games, not necessarily fields, because they will vary depending on your location. Power Ops and Arkenstone are both respawn fields. Arkenstone plays mostly elimination, which is fine. Basically what elimination is you each have one life. When you get out, you go to the side, and then once everybody's dead, you swap sides. So there's nothing wrong with that, because it doesn't take too long for everybody to get taken out, because it's such a small top field. But at Team Airsoft, they play medic games, and the only reason I have a problem with this is because United States medic games are much different than European medic games and possibly the rest of the world. So for example, at Team Airsoft, when you get hit, you have to call for a medic, and then the medic comes to you, and they have to start a timer, and in 60 seconds you're back in. That doesn't sound like a long time, but if you're not near a medic and you're trying to call out for one and there's not one near you, you could be waiting for a while. Now they do have a rule, if a medic doesn't show up to you in 5 minutes, then you can walk and find one. But if a game is 15 to 20 minutes long, you just wasted a third to a fourth of your time. And that's just not, I don't think that's very good at all. I personally don't care for that. So just keep that in mind when you are choosing a field. Maybe message them ahead of time and ask them. In European games, they do it a little bit differently. What they do is, hang on guys, I gotta check the camera real quick. Okay, it's still rolling. I don't know why this is blinking. Anyways, so in European games, what they do is, from the footage that I've seen most of the time, is you can either respawn or you can wait on a medic. No matter what position, what they're playing, basically, you can either walk all the way back to your base and respawn, which could be a 3 to 5 minute walk, or you can wait for a medic, and when the medic comes up to you, he'll either wrap something around your arm, like a tourniquet or something like that, and you're back in, or or they'll tap you back in. And it's only about 10-second wait. Now, real Milsim games like Milsim West, they do the tourniquet or the bottled water. That's understandable because those are real Milsims, not a weekly field. So I understand the difference between those. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I just say personally, for a beginner, I would steer clear of those fields just because you're not going to have as good of a time. Unless you're looking for that extreme realism, in which case I definitely would recommend those fields. So another thing is, when it comes to these large scale fields, is weapon types. So snipers and LMGs definitely have their home in the outdoor fields because they can be used at their maximum potential. Most United States fields don't have limits on snipers. For example, you can build a 600 FPS sniper if you want. Probably is not going to last long with the internals, but it's possible. Just depends on what kind of upgrades you do. And LMGs can use their full auto to their max potential. So those are things you got to just keep in mind as well when you go to those places, especially if you want to play that style. A lot of people do like the sniping style, so those fields obviously appeal more to people. And CQB snipers, CQB outdoor fields also have their place. For example, this is a lower powered sniper rifle, and it is perfect for a CQB field, and there's really no engagement that I felt like I had to worry about my range. And that's a completely stock gun. So another thing that people choose these outdoor fields for is events. So it's much easier to have an event with, well, it's actually more possible to hold an event with 200 to 300 people at a field that has 30 acres or whatever, than it is to host an event with 100 people inside of a 30,000 square foot arena, especially with COVID. So there's a big difference there. If you want to go to events, normally outdoor fields are the only ones that host events, besides like nighttime games and Speedsoft tournaments and stuff like that. Those will be at indoor fields, obviously. And they do have team building indoor field nights where it's a squad versus squad type thing. Those are really intense to watch and really cool. I definitely recommend you look some of those up. Those are cool. So the events, as I was talking about, so large-scale Milsim events, historical events is another thing. For example, Vietnam War style eras. You have, say if you're on the Marine Corps, use an M16, or if you're a sniper, a Springfield M19, and then if you're playing as the Viet Cong, then you'll have an AKS system or a SVD sniper, something like that along those lines. And then, same thing that goes hand in hand with the snipers being high FPS limits. Most outdoor fields have higher FPS limits. That's just how that goes. And then another thing that can happen is weather. So this is part of the negative part about outdoor fields. If you don't want to get dirty, if you're not looking to get drenched in rain, deal with the cold weather and all that kind of stuff, outdoor fields are probably not for you. Normally indoor fields, you never have to worry about being cold. You never have to worry about being cold. You don't have to worry about the weather. They play no matter what. But outdoor fields do have limits to what they can do. For example, if it has a thunderstorm in the location, most insurance companies, one of those things they have to do is if it's storming or something like that, they have to make the players get off the field and wait till the storm either passes or until there's a certain amount of time before a lightning strike or a thunder boom. So those are things you got to keep in mind. Another thing is that the weather can also affect your weapon or your airsoft guns. For example, if you're using a lower weight BB in the rain, the rain can affect the BB. It's going to affect the BB no matter what weight you have, but it also can affect your gear and stuff like that. In an indoor field, you don't have to worry about dust or dirt. Well, maybe it does, but you don't have to worry about dirt or mud or anything like that getting into your airsoft guns. Excuse me. For example, I have to clean mine very often. I clean them. You should anyways, but I have to clean them more than somebody that uses an indoor field. For example, I have to clean I'll just show you real quick. I have to clean the inside of the mag wheel right here, the outside of the guns, all that kind of stuff. So I have to clean all that stuff. So just keep that in mind when it comes to an outdoor field. Weather is a big factor, especially if you don't want to be cold, wet, rainy, muddy, all that kind of stuff. But I personally think that outdoor fields are the way to go because, well, let me rephrase that, outdoor CQB fields are better for beginners because it all comes down to the fact that you're going to get into more action, more engagements, and you're able to use those different variety of weapons than you are at an indoor field. that is why I think those are cooler. You also meet more people at outdoor fields with different types of weapons, and you can use, and depending on who they are, they may let you use them. We went to Arkansas, and Trey's sniper, the ref, actually was like, "Hey man, can I please shoot that?" You know, of course he said yes, but it's just one of those things where, you know, there's people out there that will let you do that kind of stuff. So especially if you want a rifle and you're not sure if it's for you and somebody has it and you ask them, I'm sure they would let you shoot it. You know, you just have to ask and be courteous and all that kind of stuff. So, to sum it all up, I definitely think that outdoor CQB fields are the best. Just make sure you keep an eye on the weather that's going to happen that weekend. That's another thing. That's always an option you could have, is if it's going to be bad weather that weekend, just go to indoor CQB field if you want to play Airsoft that bad. If you didn't want to go all that bad, then you could just wait till the next weekend. But that's definitely my personal opinion, is that outdoor CQB fields are the best, just because of the more engagements and the variety of weapons. I know I already said that, but I'm just reestablishing that's my opinion. So, and then finally, I just want to let you guys know that either one is great. Just another thing you can do, this is going to be my last tip, I'm going to wrap this up, is you can always email the owners or whoever's in charge of the social media or something like that and ask them questions about the field so you can find out if it's right for you. And most of the time, every owner that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a bunch of them, they have been extremely courteous and extremely helpful to me to let me know the information I need to know before I went to the field. So just keep all these things in mind, and I hope you guys have a great 2021. It's going to be a great year for the YouTube channel. We have a lot of good stuff coming. We're actually filming some stuff here at the home field this weekend here at my own home. So just keep tuning for that.